What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest Shudder original movie. And to be quite honest with you, I had no idea what this movie was about. This is one of those instances. I saw Shudder upload a new movie and I thought the poster looked really cool, which was enough for me to jump on board and watch this. And it's one of the things I love about Shudder. I talk really highly of Shudder all the time because I really appreciate what they do for independent artists and the amount of movies that they put money into and that they produce that give these smaller artists a larger platform. And the horror community loves Shudder. I personally love Shudder. I've been a member for a long time, so I'm always looking forward to checking out whatever they have to offer. And the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is The Dead Thing. The Dead Thing is directed by Elric Kane. A young woman lost in a series of meaningless connections falls in love with a charismatic and sensitive man who hides a dark secret that turns her affair into a dangerous obsession. So, like I said, I knew very little about this movie before I went in to watch it. I just really clicked on it and checked it out. And what I will say, there is a lot to love about this movie, but it also has a ton of flaws. And I think it's an enjoyable experience and it's definitely a worthwhile watch. There's just a lot of things about it that I would change or shift around to make it a much more overall impactful experience. And I'll talk about that when I break the movie down for you today. So I don't want to give any spoilers away in talking about the movie. I'll have a segment later on where I talk about spoilers, but from here on out, keep it spoiler free and I'll just give you a little breakdown. So the beginning of the film, we're introduced to Alex, played by Blue Hunt, and she is constantly going on these dates. For the first probably 10 minutes of the movie, there's really little to no dialogue, and we just see her going on date after date and having hookup after hookup, and she just feels relatively empty. She's trying to find some form of connection, and while sleeping with these people and having these brief encounters provides her a brief amount of joy and reprieve, she wants something that lasts longer. And she's on this dating app. She's constantly looking for the right person. We also see her at her job, where her job seems absolutely miserable. She's constantly just scanning these documents, and she works with this guy who seems to always be kind of in her business and overstepping his bounds a little bit. And she eventually ends up matching with Kyle, and the two of them go on a date together. And it's unlike any date she's been on in a very long time. The two of them have very meaningful conversation. They're connecting, they're getting closer together. And he ends up coming over to her place and they like draw art together and they spend all this time together. And she truly feels like something could actually be there. And in the morning, she wakes up and tells him that she has to leave for work. And she does. And she tries to get into contact with him again, and he doesn't respond to any of her text messages. He doesn't say anything to her. And so Alex decides that she needs to try to look for him. And the entirety of the film is Alex trying to hunt down Kyle and what happens when she finally figures out what has happened to Kyle and how it affects her life from that point on. So, like I said, there is a lot to appreciate about this movie. And for starters, I want to talk about Blue Hunt's performance. She is phenomenal in this movie. I really appreciate just the level of range that she has in this performance. She has to go through a lot of different emotions in this and has to showcase a wide array of just highs and lows when it comes to feeling incredibly depressed or more joyful moments. And I think what's impressive is not only just in her dialogue delivery, but she does a lot with facial expressions, and she was constantly believable, and was one of the reasons why I was on board for the entire movie, was because she just provided an incredibly captivating experience. I also thought this movie was beautifully shot. It looks incredible. There's a lot of attention to detail and the editing and the framing of each and every shot, and it's a very haunting experience, which is clearly what the director was going for, is just to put you into this world, provide a level of uncertainty early on, and then when you start to get an idea of what's happening in the film, it really just keeps you unnerved. And I think you need that for a movie like this. And I was very appreciative of the visual presentation, and I also absolutely adored the score in this movie. It really creates a very ethereal, almost dreamlike experience in moments. The music is perfectly accompanying the scenes in the film, and I just feel like they knew the exact moments to drop in the right piece of music. And I think all of those things work together to create a very captivating experience. Some of my issues with this movie, though, for starters, I don't think a lot of the other performances in this movie complement just how good Blue's performance is in this film, especially the leading male actor. He just wasn't as believable. And I felt like throughout the film, his performance somehow got worse. And he's not a terrible actor by any means. He's just very closed off. And one of the things is when his character sort of shifts and he has to deliver much more intense emotions. I didn't feel threatened by his character or disturbed by him. And I think you really needed a performance from an actor that could really just like up that level of intensity. I also had an issue with the pacing in this movie. I feel like once it is revealed to you what is happening, there's a lot of scenes that just feel incredibly repetitive, that just sort of pad the runtime. And I wanted more with this lead character and understanding her a little bit more. I think the movie has a lot of interesting subject matter that it's trying to explore, but the problem is there's a lot of meandering moments which make it less effective. And I also feel like the third act was incredibly rushed. The end of the movie felt like they got to a point and they're like, we have to wrap this up. And it was relatively unsatisfying to me, especially with the themes that the movie is trying to convey. And I can't talk about much more about the movie without spoiling it. So if you have not seen this film and it sounds interesting to you in one way or another, go to Shudder and check it out. I definitely think it's worth a watch. But from here on out, I'm going to give spoilers to the movie. So early on in the film, we find out Kyle, the man that Alex was seeing, is actually dead. She finds out when going to his work that they've held a memorial for him and he died in a horrible accident. And she ends up seeing him going on a date with another woman and confronts him, and he has no idea who she is. And she starts talking to him and having conversations, and he finally figures out that he's dead, which causes him to get incredibly aggressive and he starts hurting people. And he wants to solely be Alex's entire life. He wants her to just drop everything and be a part of her life and just dedicate all of her time and energy to him. And so the movie is just seeing this relationship shift from something that's seemingly incredibly optimistic for our lead character as like this is a person who understands me and cares about me, into something much more sinister. And it's a really interesting idea because I think early on I really liked the contrast of like this person who's doing a lot of these hookups and just yearning for connection in one way or another, but hasn't been able to find connection in a way that's meaningful. And I think that's so true for so many people. Like you have relationships in your life that are casual, that you just like, talk to people one off, or that you hold one interest or another with someone. But I think everyone deep down seeks for that level of connection with another person who gets them possibly not to the fullest extent, but like closest to the fullest that you can possibly get. And just in this brief one night connection, she feels it with this person. And I really liked the direction of that. And I think that there's a way that you could approach it, even with the character being a ghost, that could give it a sort of satisfying payoff. But like in this, it was just like he becomes this toxic figure that is just essentially leading her down a horrible path, which is like, what's the movie trying to say at that point? That like that search for meaningful connection, like sometimes it can bite you on the ass, or sometimes like things just go bad, or people aren't all what they seem to be. There's so many like mixed signals that I feel like are thrown in when it comes to the overall messaging of the film. And then like she meets this guy at work when someone else at work gets fired, and the two of them hit it off in a really sort of uncomfortable way that I never really understood the lead character's interest in this person. Like it just seems like it comes out of convenience more than anything else, with her being in a fragile state after what she figures out about Kyle's character. And so like where I felt like the initial ideas being conveyed by the film were relatively fascinating, as the movie progressed, I just felt like it really lost its footing and didn't exactly know where it wanted to land in the third act. And I think that's why the movie didn't work for me totally. I think there's a lot of things to really appreciate when it comes to the visual style, the atmosphere of the movie, and especially our lead actress, who does a really phenomenal job. But it's also missing a lot, which makes it not a completely and totally satisfying experience. But I think if any of this sounds interesting to you, it's definitely worth watching. So, have you seen The Dead Thing? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining and had a lot of positives going for it, but it definitely fell short when it comes to the entire experience. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.